Hey guys, Mr. Yisley here. So we're going to be finishing up the last sections of Chapter 3, and we've learned a lot about graphing linear equations with two variables, x and y. These last sections are going to be extending that knowledge onto linear inequalities. So I think the first thing we need to do is define what a linear inequality is. And so a linear inequality in two variables is an inequality that can be written as ax plus by is greater than c. Now this inequality symbol could be a less than or equal to, or it could be a greater than or equal to. That's just kind of a placeholder for the moment. It could be any of those inequality symbols. So we just chose this one for our example right there, but it could be any of those four inequality symbols. Now, as we talked about with linear equations in two variables in that standard form, the a, the b, and the c are just placeholders for numbers, right? So these are eventually going to become numbers, right? So just a reminder here that this is all going to be numbers. Now the x and the y will still stay as x and y. So just like we talked about with linear equations, we're going to have an x and we're going to have a y because coordinates on a coordinate plane are ordered pairs are x and y. So we're still going to end up with ordered pairs x and y. Right? We're still going to end up with the same information that we've dealt with before. We're going to have our slope. Now remember that is the m, and then we're still going to have y-intercepts as well, right? Which we've talked about as b as well. So all those things are still going to come back into play with linear inequalities. The only difference really with linear inequalities is the symbol that separates that stuff. Before it was always an equal sign, and now we're going to be dealing with the inequality symbols. We'll also talk about how you represent these on a graph because as we've learned about in the past with inequalities, there is more than one number that is greater than 2. Before, when we had like x equals 2, that meant x could only be 2. If we have x is greater than 2, then that means 3, 4, 5.5. All of those could satisfy. So we'll talk about how to represent that on a coordinate plane as well. All right, well, if you have any additional questions on the vocabulary itself, please let me know. Otherwise, you should have what you need to continue on in the chapter.